Doctor.
Yeah, sure.
And this is Dr. Laurie Brown, member of the State Medical Association, retired. Going to interview, along with Miss Monya Green, going to interview Dr. Norman Eaddy, who was president of the State Medical Association in 1967 and 68. We're in Dr. Eaddy's home in Sumter, South Carolina, and we'll get started and ask you, and I appreciate you taking your time and everything for this interview.
Oh, I thank you.
All right, so good. And the first thing I'm going to ask you, sort of, is, Dr. Eaddy, is where were you born? Where'd you come from?
I was born in Timorsville, South Carolina in 1908. But when I was 4 years old, we moved to Johnsonville, South Carolina. I lived there the rest of my life until I came to Sumter in 1937.
Well, how about your parents? You remember where they came from, where they sort of originated?
As far as we could trace them, it was back to the Civil War, and there was summonses from Columbia, North Carolina, and then my mother was born and reared in Johnsonville, South Carolina, which is where I grew up. So that about as far as my family, the origin is concerned at that day and time, almost everybody was kin because there was no way of moving about very much.
Right.
Population remained pretty much as was. So, I guess
Well then, where did you go to school? Where did you have your undergraduate training there?
Oh, now, I went to Johnsonville for grammar school and high school. And when I left there, I went to the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. And by the way, I found out that by and large the students from these small towns turned out just as good or better than large as Asheville and other cities. Of course, now, they didn't teach physics and chemistry and all of that stuff, but so far as the basics were taking arithmetic, and all this stuff, we had to know, or they wouldn't let you, they didn't promote you unless you earned it.
Yes.
No such thing as social promotion. But that year at the University of North Carolina, 1925, 26, cost too much, cost $750. So we couldn't afford that. So next year I went to college at Charleston, had much better professors. One of them $52, to books and room and board and everything. And I only had 2 years of undergraduate college.
And how did you decide that you wanted to be a doctor?
Well, I knew from the time I was in the 9th grade. My father was a dedicated small-town country physician, and he and my mother both were great believers in education. He was chairman of the board of trustees for quite a while, and my mother taught for years. And they 5 boys in our family and gave them all college educations who would accept it.
So you knew early that you were wanting to be a doctor?
Yes, sir. And in the 9th grade, 8th and 9th grade, I was dedicated. Well, that's why I only had 2 years in pre-med. Yes. They didn't want to take me. It was 2 years, but I was talking to Dr. Sergeant Driscoll, he's chairman of the committee, he was the committee, and he didn't know what I wouldn't consider it. 3 years minimum, most 4 years. So I kept explaining about my father being ill, not explaining all that stuff, which is true. And he found, so if you let me make up your schedule for this coming year at the College of Charleston, if you pass everything, we'll admit you. So I went on over to College of Charleston to register, and I said, well, you're just a sophomore. I said, yeah. They said, well, some of these subjects on there for juniors and some for seniors. I said, I want to take them all. And I did. As far as I remember, I got a B on every one.
Good.
Back over for admission, he said, no, we don't take in 2-year students. I said, well, if you were to think back, Dr. O'Driscoll, you remember you made out my schedule. He said, well, you didn't pass all that. I said, yes, I did. Here's a copy from each professor. So he hummed and hawed a good bit, and finally he said, well, okay, you hit it. That's probably gone 2 years.
And he was in charge of the anatomy department, wasn't he?
Well, Dr. Dad Phillips was really, he had managed the whole freshman class. But Dr. Driscoll was also, Dad Phillips never came to the dissecting portion. He was a professor. And Dr. Driscoll did all the prosecting for us.
Now, where did you have your internship? And then your residency training too?
You know, it's ridiculous. But my first year as an intern was United States Marine Hospital in San Francisco. Well, I thought that was going to be a good internship in the Marine Hospital. But it turned out the only patients from these commercial ships applied to coast transporting materials, and they paid $100 a month just for maintenance, so you could, well, they had to pay pretty good to get people to apply who knew about it, know about what a SAR in. It's the sorriest internship I ever saw.
Well, then, how did you decide what you wanted to do? Where did you go to
I knew that.
to get that?
I knew that when I was in the 10th grade. I knew I wanted to be an ophthalmologist. And so after practicing 4 years in Pamplico and Johnsonville, my dad died in 1934. I left Pamplico and moved to Johnsonville and took over his practice. About 4 years later, after 4 years of general practice, I had applied to Brooklyn Eye Hospital, and much to my surprise, after a personal interview up there, they accepted me. Well, they paid nothing for the whole 18 months. They didn't pay a dime. So after finishing Brooklyn Eye and Throat Hospital, meanwhile I had applied to the Episcopal Eye Hospital in Washington, D.C. for a residence in ophthalmology. And much to my surprise, they gave it to me. And that paid pretty good, except it didn't pay anything for the first 12 months. Well, you had room and board, or cell for your room. But the last 4 months, I thought I was being paid good. They paid $25 a month. And I think what the residents get now, it's ridiculous. By comparison.
Right. Even though the dollar is not worth very much.
Well, $100 for the last 4 months, $25 a month. And so for a 3-year in residences, the only remuneration I got was $25 a month the last 4 months of the Episcopal Eye. But they had good training. But I still don't know why, but they passed over some people who had been there for a number of years and gave this residency to me. I still don't know why, except the fact that I'd had 4 years of general practice might have had something to do with it.
Yes. Well, after you got your residency training, how did you decide where you were going?
To locate?
Yeah.
I had several places in mind. Orangeburg, and I got to thinking about it, and I said, you know, this is an awfully poor country. And so then I thought about Florence, and I read in Florence County, and I decided I wouldn't want to rear a family in Florence. They were big operators over there that they would build these big mansions and everything, and if they went broke, well, they had the name of a corporation. It only took $1,000 to start a corporation, and that's all they stood to lose. And so I thinking about something, talking to my parents about it, and I came over there and found I didn't know a living soul. But the city had a reputation of being very conservative, very moral, the politics were very moral. So I said, I'm going to give, and with some other consideration, I said, I'm going to give something a try. And for the first 2 years, it was a try and a trial. I had to borrow $12 each month for the first 6 months from my brother over in Johnsonville to make ends meet for that month. Then I got to making a little bit of money, then I got doing pretty good, making some $8,000–10,000 a year. And so when I came to something, I had $500 saved up, and that's what I had to start with. I never had a minute to regret it.
Don't regret coming to Sumter.
Sir?
You don't regret coming to Sumter.
Never have regretted it for 1 minute.
Well, you were here several years. You've been here several years, haven't you?
Came in 1937.
1937.
And I quit about 5 years ago because my health was getting bad. And when you get old, the number of patients you have and drop off. For many, many years, I was flooded with patients. But I noticed they began to drop off pretty fast. And my income dropped down. So the last year I practiced, I got a notice from the insurance company that my income, my insurance, malpractice insurance, for the coming year would be $3,000. I got the thing, I said, I didn't make $3,000 last year in gross. I'm not talking about net, I'm talking about gross. So there was a provision in that policy, and it's a very good company still, that if you had your last 5 years of practice with them, 5 consecutive years, and you, anytime after that you decided to retire, no matter why, illness, or just because you decided you wanted to retire no matter why, you were covered for the rest of your life and for the state as long as you lived, and the state was subject to possible insurance, malpractice insurance, fraud, or anything. So I quit, and I've been insured ever since for malpractice, and it applies to my wife, my estate if I died, and right on until the statute of limitations runs out.
Well, that's great. Now, tell me about some of your most memorable events during medicine. I know there's thousands of them, but is anything in particular stands out in your practice?
Well, the main thing that happened to me was I met Dorothy, Dorothy Compton from Harvey Avenue in Sumter. And she had come to me for an eye examination. A year later I called up, asked if she'd like to go see second fiddle with me that night. And she said, yes, sir. Well, I found out later on that she'd already seen me once. But I was considered a right eligible bachelor, I guess. So one of the nicest things that ever happened to me was about a couple of years after I met her, asked her to marry me. She said, yes, she'd marry me. So that's what always stood out. She'd been a lovely person, the best wife anybody ever had. And I changed her name after we'd been married for quite a number of years, and I got critically ill. She was such a good caretaker for me. I changed her name from Dorothy to Angel. And I guess that's the most memorable event that happened to me.
Well, that sounds wonderful. Now, do y'all have any children?
Yes, so we got 3 children, of whom we were very proud. They all 3 went through college in 4 years. Neither one of them ever flunked a course. And one lives in Wheaton, Maryland. He has his own, what do you call these computers, his own company up there, and he teaches a certain number of months a year in a school of his private school. It won't take but 8 students. And gets a good bit of money out of that. and we were very proud of him. And Wheaton, Maryland. And then Arlene, our baby daughter, lives in Virginia. And our middle daughter, Beth, lives in Columbia. So we had 3 children, we had 6 grandchildren, and we were very pleased with them all.
Now I'm going to ask you something about your medical career. How did you sort of begin getting interested in, organized medicine, in
Well, after the
societies, etc.?
Sir?
In the medical societies, etc.?
Well, now you correct me as we go along. I'll overlap a good bit, I'm afraid. After 4 years of general practice, got a position to take my practice in Johnsonville, and I was always interested in organized medicine ever since long about 1935 when I first began attending the Florence County Medical Society, the county medical meeting. And one day we met in Bennettsville when I was about 15 years old, and I heard my father and the late Dr. S.R. Lucas from Florence. I was on the back seat, they were in the front, and I heard them talking about different ophthalmological problems. But we didn't have much ophthalmological training at the medical school. And some wonderful people, Josiah Smith, wonderful person, but not any organized program. So I heard them, and they mentioned glaucoma. I'd never heard of glaucoma. And so then I got to thinking how much I liked ophthalmology, and so I belonged to the Medical Society since 1932, State Medical Association since 1932, and from then on, every assignment I got, a committee or whatnot, I made sure to attend every meeting and to be up on the subject, and so they gradually came along and offered me, when they saw I was really interested in organized medicine, offered me different, more and more prominent positions. And finally, I was a delegate to the South Carolina Medical Association after having attended the State Medical Association as a member of the House of Delegates for some 8 or 10 years. So then the 7th District Medical Society nominated me for membership on council. It's called trustees now. Well, that's the highest thing I aspire to. And after 4 years on council, the next 2 years, I was chairman of council. The next year, they told me that somebody was going to nominate me for vice president of the State Medical Association. And then a little bit later, they told me I was going to be nominated for president-elect. Well, and I'm proud of this. I never asked anybody to vote for me or to support me. All things that happened to me were entirely without my promoting myself. So after that, 6 years on council and 2 more, one as vice president, president-elect, and the last year was the presidency. And so that's about the history of my medical career.
Yes, sir. Now, what were some of the major issues during your term as presidency?
The same thing from the day I was a member of the Sumter County Medical Society, and it was socialized medicine. Because I saw it coming, and one of the main issues that I fought so bitterly in my various positions in the State Medical Society was trying to make them cut out this socialized medicine. I saw it coming, and I didn't think there was much we could do about it. particularly when the medical association were not fighting it too hard themselves. So I guess my animosity against socialized medicine was a principal thing.
And the Medicare law came into effect, I believe on July 30th, 1965, a couple of years before your
Yeah.
presidency.
But our county medical society fought socialized medicine all the way through. They're very bitterly opposed to it.
But now, what were some of the other issues during your presidency?
Well, I guess the next main issue was in these different colleges like optometrists and chiropractors and so forth and so on, or half a chiropodist, one thing and another, wanted to become full-fledged members of the state association and eligible for election to staff membership at medical junior hospital. And of course I fought that all the way down the line. One chiropractor came to me, he was an old-time chiropractor from something to show you how careful you have to be. And he wanted to know if I was supporting him and the manipulators for promotion to election to the staff. I said, no, Dr. Plowden, I am not in favor of it. I've been fighting it bitterly. He said, well, Dr. Eaddy, you know, I got a license to practice from the same State Board of Medical Examiners you have. I said, wait a minute, Dr. Plowden. You know good and well, you were examined by the State Board of Medical Examiners because they were the only ones certified by the practice of medicine except the State Board of Medical Examiners who examined you. And you know that you were examined because there was no other, you all had no organization. And no, I fought all these borderline kids all the way down the line. So, but he wouldn't take offense. He wouldn't try to seduce you and mislead you. So you had to be very careful, which I was.
Dr. Eaddy, during your...
I interrupt you to tell you how much I do appreciate your and Miss Green's kindness. I didn't never expected anything like this.
Well, thank you so much. It's a real pleasure for us to do this.
Thank you.
And just wonderful to see you again.
Say, oh my gosh, I've been waiting for this a long time.
Well, good. Now let me ask you now about some of the doctors who helped you a good bit when you were president of the Medical Association. And I might even get back and ask you some of the ones who were an early influence in your life.
Of course, my father and mother were the first they influenced me. Man, they backed me all the way. And then I never have forgotten one of the finest gentlemen I ever knew. It was Frank Owens, the late Dr. Frank Owens from Columbia. He was a gentleman and well informed, and of course you don't want to know about it.
How about in medical school, back then?
Well, the ones who influenced me most.
Yeah.
Of course, Dr. Cyrus Driscoll, over his own objection, and had me. He was the admissions committee, you might as well say. But the man that influenced me most of all was Dad Phillips, who you probably don't even remember.
No, sir.
Oh, fat, bald-headed Irishman, almost never smiled. But for some reason, he gave me a student assistant in anatomy, embryology, histology, all the way through medical school. That paid my tuition. But I had to work 2 hours a day, 5 days a week to keep sharpening those microtome knives and stuff. And so consequently, while the other boys had time to play around, I never did. And I might have had 2 or 3 dates in my whole 4 years of medical school, none at the College of Charleston or Chapel Hill. But I just didn't have time. And I lived to study and attend classes and things like that. Then, in addition to Dad Phillips, of course, there was the late Dr. Dean Wilson, who I don't know whether you ever knew him or not. And he offered me a professor, an assistant professor in ear, nose, and throat when I finished at Brooklyn there at the medical college, but I wouldn't accept it because I wasn't much interested in ear, nose, and throat. But I still wanted ophthalmology, so I had to turn it down. And I appreciated it, though. The medical school had been of inestimable kindness to me, and the State Medical Association, and the other, of course, Dr. Kenneth Lynch. He was a genius. I don't know whether you knew him or not.
Yes, sir.
Yep. And if he differed with you, you say so. But just because we had different opinions didn't interfere with our friendship. And of course, Dr. Volton, whom you knew very well, we were very, very close for quite a number of years. I had a letter from Hill that I was looking at the other day, so Dr. Michael Holmes from King Street, and I were the first doctor to show them any attention for quite a while after they came to something. You know, Dr. Volton had a kind of a tough bedside manner. After a few years, he asked me, he said, Norman, in the cafeteria at the medical college, he said, when you reckon they gonna promote me out of this assistant professorship? I said, never, unless you learn a gentler kind of bedside manner. And you know, I'm interested in the patient. I said, well, you got to be more than that. You got to be courteous to him and kind. But his interest was primarily on the clinical side. But he softened up after that. And let me see if there was Dad Phillips, Dean Wilson, Kenneth Lynch. I guess they were the principal, although the others I don't think of offhand.
Now, how about during your term as president of the association?
What?
Any physicians particularly worked with you and helped you, and
Well,
did y'all?
yes,
I
indeed.
know there were so many. It's hard to name all of them.
Dr. Frank Owen of Columbia. I always sought his opinion about anything I thought was going to be controversial, especially with the legislature. See, I was a neophyte. I didn't know how to deal with the legislature. And the late Dr. Joe Kane from over at Mullins, and Dr. Howard Stokes from Florence. And for many years, we three or four others ran the medical association. But I could tell that the time was running out. We had been prominent in it for too long. People wouldn't question us. Anything we did was okay. So, and I sensed that for several years, Columbia had been nipping at our heels, and I knew it. Because they wanted to take over the State Medical Association, which I think was a smart idea in retrospect. So, gradually we just gave everything up and let Columbia take over, and they've done an excellent job.
Now, Eaddy, I want to interject here that I've in my mind, I've sort of interviewed Dr. Frank Owens and Dr. Joe Kane, and it would have been so nice if we could have had this kind of interview with them, wouldn't it?
Well, I appreciate it, and so would they. But Dr. Price, talking about a Christian dedicated man, he was a Christian dedicated man.
I believe you had a committee on religion and medicine during your
Yes, sir.
term as president.
Still operating. And it's one of the most influential committees that we ever had. You see, back, if I can take up a couple of minutes, way back, you know, well up to the time I started practicing medicine, then my dad's practice, you had no treatment that you could offer anybody, hardly anything, except the bedside sympathy and stuff. And then about 1940, a little before, we started discovering these miracle drugs like penicillin, you know, these miracle operations and diagnostic procedures. And the medical profession, which previously depended on God because they had no other help, be drifting over to the utter dependence on these miracle procedures. And in the process, they pretty well got about God. And then after about 15, 20 years, the medical profession began to realize, so from then on, they came back to God and learned to combine religion and medicine. And that's where this committee has been so active and had such great influence.
Yes, sir. I believe Dr. Baruti in Florence was,
He was, and he might still be, I don't know. See, I've been out of organized medicine so long. I beg your pardon, not out of organized medicine, but out of political aspect.
yes, sir. Now let me ask you another thing. I remember you writing a president's page one time about the auxiliary. You think the auxiliary helped out the...
Well, of course, like anything
medicine?
else, it had to have its beginning. And it didn't have near the influence then, back in 1937, 38, than it has had. Miss Strohacker was president of the auxiliary, and it became very prominent, and I'm a great auxiliary fan.
All right, sir. Now let me see. We had an organization called Scalpel during that time. That was our first name for our first political action committee, wasn't it?
For South Carolina PAC. Originally it had a little bit different name. Harrison People from Esther was very prominent in it. And under his leadership, I believe, they converted it to a South Carolina Political Action Committee. And so it's still very active. I don't belong to it. I don't belong to any of these except honorary ex officio.
Well, would you still urge physicians to take an active part in the political process?
If they are already physicians. I'm very skeptical about trying to influence anybody to study medicine now, because medicine has changed drastically since you and I were in medical school, and the government has almost completely taken it over, although the average physician doesn't realize it. I don't think.
Well, patients are still the prime reason for being in medicine, aren't they?
Yes, sir, for most of us. But some people went to medical school as a means of getting rich, and they were mostly disappointed.
Yes, sir. There's one other thing I'd like to ask you, or a couple other things. Are you still sort of optimistic about future medicine?
Yes and no. I'm not optimistic about it as you and I knew it. But I do think it will always exist, but not in the form we know it as. I think the government is going to gradually finish taking over.
Well, Dr. Eaddy, I can remember reading one of your first, or the first president page that you wrote, and I want to quote this from you and see what you think about it now. Medicine is the most magnificent profession in the world, considering the ministry and avocation as contrasted to profession.
I still think it's, as you and I know it, as it has been, It's the greatest profession the world has ever known, particularly when it's tied in with God.
Well, now, you retired and
About 5 years ago.
about 5 years ago, and do you get out and do anything actively?
Most afternoons I take a little ride.
Uh,
And in the morning I tend to sit in that chair and read the paper. I just don't have the ambition or the drive. I used to look forward to the forthcoming vacation, particularly the State Medical Association, with great anticipation. And I enjoyed them to the full. But now about the only place I want to go is let my wife drive me over to Johnsonville, the old home place, and back. I just don't have the motivation. You wait about 20 years, you'll get old.
I might not have to wait that long, Dr. Eaddy. But now, I want to thank you for this interview and for being so kind. You and Angel both being so kind to Manya and me. And the State Association will thank you. And I know that the doggone everybody will thank you. And the doctors, all the doctors, let me shake your hand here.
Yes, sir.
All the doctors before and after you.
Well, I appreciate it, and so does Angel.
And I want to ask you one more question now. Would you do it all over again?
I wouldn't miss 1 hour again. I'd want to do every bit of it, except I made some errors about moral errors and things which I regret. But I am completely confident about God and salvation. You see, we told in the Bible that God has already forgiven everybody everything. But God never grants anybody anything without attaching an if to it. He said, everybody has been not saved already if they embrace God, and if you meet the requirements of the 10 Commandments and behave like you should, you sin and you repent, the slate's white clean.
Well, I know that you must have one of the cleanest slates in the world. And I want to thank you for that and for being such a good physician and for giving us this interview.
I thank you both.
The State Medical Association, I hope people will look back at this and think about how medicine was back when.
Well, I certainly appreciate it, and so does my wife, the loveliest woman I ever met.
All right, sir. Thank you very much.
Might be a tie now between her and Miss Green.